All right, let's tidy things up a bit here. Matte extraction stuff here. And we'll create another track for doing our spill suppression. Let's use our unspill despill color macro that we've created, or tool. So I'm going to look at just the color. And if you'll remember, this out of the box, you can control quite a few things with this. So we can control the despill amount or the red-blue weight. We want to be careful that we don't create too bad of a shift in any of the colors. So this blue shirt, for example, blue shouldn't typically shift color too much. It'd be more of a concern with yellows, and we don't have, I'm not seeing too much of a shift on the blues. But if we did push the weight too much one way, we would get a shift in that. So I think the kind of the stock algorithm is working pretty good right out of the box. We're still getting a little bit of green in the motion blur of their hands. So let's go ahead and try to suppress this here while we have the additional hue correct. We'll do a little bit of green suppression in here in the hands. Take that last little bit out, but try not to change the main skin tones too much while we're at it. And then let's, I'm going to duplicate this. Let's switch this over into unspill mode. Or wait, let's just defer any additional work on this until we have the background prepared. So this is going to be kind of complex because we have our panorama that we need to project them into, and we could do all the compositing in 3D on the card, but I think it would be better to get all of our backgrounds in here if we want to do a driven unspill and all that stuff. It might be better to render our panorama background and render our card after that, or maybe create a sort of cascading chain of dependencies so that we can put this over the background after the background has been created. So this is going to be interesting because we need to render both this and the background through the scanline, because this is going to be repositioned by the scanline render as well as getting the background. So let's start cleaning up some of this logic. This stabilize will always go above this card. Let's go down here someplace after we merge our things together. So let's copy our alpha over for now into our unspilled background, and then copy that onto our card. Let's create a scene. Well, let's rather than a scene node, we'll use our cam main to render two separate scenes, one for the card and one for the sphere. And this will allow us to do things like edge blend and stuff after we've rendered the panorama. Connect a scanline render. Create another scanline render for this. And we'll use the cam main to render both of them. Pre-multiply them here. So there's our little guys. We'll still have to work on that screen suppression, but let's get it all together first. So maybe we want a slightly better place for them to sit on the ground. Now, if we wanted to, we could just spin the ground around until we were happy with it, or we could spin the guys around. Either way. I think I'm going to spin the ground around, make sure we're looking through the cam main camera here. And I'm just going to spin the panorama around on its Y. So that would reposition the world, give these guys a better place to be standing. Maybe like right there, flat area. So put that over that. Just a simple merge so we can see what we're doing real quick. There we go. So they're standing on sort of a flat area. So now that we have it sort of roughly assembled, it seems to me like maybe the card is they still feel like they're leaning forward a bit. So maybe we should, let's look at it through the scan line. Yep, render. Maybe we should scoot their card down a little bit more. Yeah, let's say like -38. And one of the things I noticed when we were stabilizing this was that we're stabilizing the whole thing so that it's poking out the bottom of the frame here a little bit. In reality, because of the way we don't have a lot of extra margin on the bottom here because Paris kind of goes out the bottom of frame. So let's reposition this whole thing. I'm going to put a transform node here, and I'm just going to scoot everything up about the same amount that it's being scooted down by the stabilize node, so that we can use as many of those pixels along the bottom of frame as possible. Let's blur this matte a little bit so that this edge here is not so abrupt. Feather it kind of. Alrighty. So before we proceed, let's start to grade this so that they look like they fit a little bit better. Because one of the challenges always when you're trying to do your screen suppression is you really don't know what color you need to suppress it until you see it in the final comp. And if you're going to adjust the color, you're going to be adjusting everything. So I will start to do that after my suppression here. I'll just drop down a grade, and I'm going to just start grading this to hopefully fit into the plate a little bit better. And first thing that it needs is it's way too bright. Maybe it's a little too reddish. We'll have to look at more of the set. So now that we've got this whole 3D system built up, I'll show you this real quick. If we just change the lens to be really, really wide, we'll see more of the set. And they're going to be tied right in to the set. So now if I tilt the camera up a little bit more, let's say, get a sense of what the environment looks like. We'd also get a sense if they feel like they're standing on the ground. If we still want to adjust this other card a little bit more. Feels like they might be leaning back a little bit now, but it also makes them feel smaller. So yeah, unfortunately, we kind of have to do this one by eye. We have no notes on the angle the camera actually was. I'm gonna push it a little bit like that though, just to make them feel a little smaller. And even if they feel like they're leaning back, it's not the end of the world. So now we need to keep adjusting the color. We can see a little bit more of the set here. You can see the environment's a little bit more yellowish, warmish. They're kind of pinkish, reddish. So just keep adjusting that. I'm going to use the same gain control to pull a little bit of red out. So now it's just a matter of continuing to adjust the color until it looks just right. I'm going to work on getting the edge suppression better before I keep working on the color, just to get it more in the ballpark. So I'll take the camera here and put this lens back to something a little bit closer to what I was working on before, so I can see the edges better. And remember, I duplicated this because I wanted to make this into a driven unspill, actually. And this is where it's going to get interesting. Hopefully we won't create a circular dependency here, but our merge is happening way down here. We may be able to tap this here and bring it in a little higher up and create a driven unspill on them. The catch here is that we haven't actually translated them yet. If we just take the background that we're rendering here and try to use it in our driven unspill, what will happen is it won't be the right background because we've moved this card around that they're on. But we can sort of reverse out this whole system and rephotograph the slice that's just behind their card of this background. Remember that our camera matches the field of view of our card here. So I'm going to duplicate this camera, and we'll just call this camera card camera. And we're only just going to use this just to photograph what's behind them for this driven unspill. So we're going to use yet another scanline render here. And we'll take this card, or the panorama, attach that to the scene, attach. Now we have to make this camera match this card here. So let's get both this camera and this card up. We need to get just this rotation, because that's the only thing we edited, into the camera here. So we want to rotate this there. I'm going to just drag that knob from there to there because I want to copy all those rotations. And if we look at it in 3D, you'll see, oops, don't want to edit the camera. Let's zoom out here. You can see that our camera, that is our Blackmagic camera, this one, card camera, should be matching our projection down there. Yeah. Okay, so let's attach it to the scanline render. Oh, looks like I didn't copy the rotation over. So let's copy the rotation from the card to the card camera here. There we go. Now it's rendering the same slice of background that is going behind the mini-me's here, but just the part that's behind their card. Let's see. So we can use this to do our driven unspill. And because we're not going to animate any of this geometry, we're only ever going to animate this taking camera. This slice should stay the same unless we move the card. We could expression link it to that card if we wanted to, but now we can use this in our driven unspill way up here. So let's switch this over to an unspill, driven unspill. Oh. We need to pick the color, the despilled color here to offset it properly. And we need the background's black point. And I'm going to split the screen. Now, remember, we're doing a grade underneath here, so we'll have to view it here and then do our split screen with this up here. And we want this background to look the same color as this background. So. And now instead of using an over, if we like, we could use an add mix here. All right, in the next video, let's tune the edges a little bit and start putting some animation on our panorama here.